Good evening. Welcome to our April regular school board meeting. At this time, Ms. Kinzer, will you take the roll?
Will. Ms. Parker? Ms. Kinzer's here. Ms. Hopkins? Mr. Fulbright?
Here.
Mr. Moore? Present. Ms. Irvin? Mr. Sims? Mr. Hooper? Here. Mr. Howell? Here. Mr. Lindsay? Here. And Mr. Dudley. We have a quorum.
Okay, we have 6 present, and Ms. Hopkins is just joining us, so we now have seven present. And I think I see 2 more walking in the door as we speak. You're fine. We'd like to welcome Ms. Irvin and Ms. Parker as well. So that brings our total to 9 for the meeting tonight. We have more than a quorum, so we are ready to hit it. At this time, I'd ask you to rise as we say the Pledge of Allegiance and have a moment of silence. The Pledge of Allegiance will be led by Baker Elementary students. Thank you. You can be seated. You've all received the agenda. It's been posted on the website. Is there a motion to accept? Got a motion from Ms. Kinzer, second from Mr. Lindsay. All those in favor, we'll get ready to vote here in a minute. Just waiting on one more. There we go. All right. The vote's unanimous. We have an agenda for tonight's meeting. This time, I'll turn it over to Ms. Carter. Tennessee Behavioral Support Model Demonstration and School Recognitions. I don't know if those two are the same, but if they are, that's great.
Mr. Chair, thank you. Board members, I have a script because I'm a chatter. Tonight we are excited to celebrate the following schools for their effort and dedication to supporting the needs of all MCPS students through the Response to Instruction and Intervention Behavior Framework. RTI-B, as it's known, was initiated in Murray County in 2016. There was a need that was saw for students to help them with their behavior through a positive support system. The overall goal was to implement a program to significantly decrease office discipline referrals and improve the overall climate and culture of the school community. The model of demonstration school process was constructed to acknowledge the schools for their exemplary implementation of the Response to Instruction and Intervention program. The purpose of this recognition is to highlight and promote schools successfully implementing RTI-B so their practices can serve as models across the state. The awards are usually presented during the PI conference in the fall, but since the PI conference went virtual, they provided the awards here to the district office. So, Will the following schools please come up and receive their certificate? Highland Park Elementary School, Mrs. Kelly Myers, the principal, is here. This is the highest honor at the state level that you can receive, and we are one of the few schools that are receiving that. Thank you. Yeah, and take a picture. Thank you. I appreciate that. McDowell Elementary School, this is the silver level. Dr. Whitney Kovach is here. She's the school counselor of the school. She's also the RTIB team lead for her building. Thank you very much. This is the second next highest honor that you can receive in the state. Randolph Howell Elementary School, Dr. Michael Ford, the principal. This is a bronze level. This is the third level that you receive from the state. Spring Hill High School, Dr. Christine Potts. This is also a bronze level. This is the third level from the state. This is the only high school in the district that has received this award. Marvin Wright Elementary School. This is a model school of recognition. Miss Sherry Mulballer. Is Sherry here? Yes. Hey, Sherry. She snuck in. She's the school counselor, and she is the lead RTIB in her school building. And the last school is Mount Pleasant Elementary School. This is also a model of recognition school. Mrs. Kelly Lux, the school counselor, is here. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair and the board, for allowing us to share this recognition. It's a wonderful opportunity to show all of the good things that are happening outside of academics and how we are supporting students' mental health and wellness here in the district.
Thank you very much for sharing this with us. It's always nice to see the things that are going right and the things we're doing really well. I'm very proud of all of our recipients.
I apologize. I left out of school. I am so sorry. Riverside Elementary School, Miss Regina Perry, and she's just sitting there. She's so sweet.
Now you get, Jack, now you get to take another picture.
Yes. Thank you so much, and she is a model school of recognition as well. I told you that's why I have to keep it square.
Thank you all very much for the positive impact that you're having within our students' lives. This time we have on our agenda the Maury County Education Association.
Let me test out. I can have a really big voice, so let me find my spot here. Good evening, school board members. Good evening, everybody behind me. My name is Stephanie Sparks Newland, and I teach 6th grade at Spring Hill Middle School. I've been an MCPS math science teacher for 14 years, and this is my 25th year of teaching. I am here pleased to remind you that we MCPS employees are long overdue for a significant raise. I've collected a few recent newspaper articles from both the Tennessean and the Daily Herald that highlight this issue. The first article is about how Maury County is again considering a raise for its employees that are not part of the Maury County Public School System. Lovely picture of Mr. Lukonen here. Doug is quoted as saying we've had conservative years with the COVID, and yet we have the funds. We are in a much better position than we expected to be due to how conservative we were with COVID-19. Things have really turned around. We have remained static on our budget. We have exceeded what we made in the previous year on every schedule. It goes on and on. It's a pages-long article. I'm supposing many of you have seen that. That catches teachers' attention. The second article is about the state funding system, the BEP, based on a failed formula. And again, headline news, the funding formula fails students, and I would argue that it's also failing us, the teachers. And it says Nashville is 43rd in funding in our country. And it talks about how other counties are giving out $1,000 bonuses and how they're passing out that COVID funding. and pretty much going on about how BEP does not really fund a school system. Alarming that we follow that. The final article is an editorial from our own representative, Scott Sapicki. He talks about how important it is to get our students on track and support educational opportunities, including paying teachers a higher salary. Nice editorial that was in our local Daily Herald, and he, in his writing, says, finally, we support and value great teachers, which I think we just heard a lot of right here. They deserve our gratitude. It takes passion, commitment, and hard work to walk into a classroom every day and give your best. In addition to enhanced training and resources, the General Assembly will provide $43 million to local school districts to increase teacher pay. When that turns out to be a $444 bonus, which really means about $290, that's very disappointing. One children's story about teamwork and collaboration that I enjoy, and I always share with my students at the beginning of each year, is Swimmy by Leo Leone. Swimmy is a little fish who survives a disaster that kills his entire community. It's kind of how we've been feeling this year. Swimmy learns throughout this book to work with other fish his size, and eventually they all swim together in the shape of a shark, with Swimmy as the eye leading, and they're able to chase all the predators away. To me, as I sat for 85 minutes with kids taking the tea and ready today, Swimmy's character really sums it up. Are we really opening school in a pandemic without following CDC guidelines? The answer? Don't worry, just keep swimming. Does anyone care that our office staff, most of my teaching team, and even I myself, I was very sick, have gotten COVID this year? Don't worry, just keep swimming. Can we really learn all these new software programs in a week? Don't worry, just keep swimming. How do we remotely video teach and teach in-person students at the same time? Don't worry, just keep on swimming. Does anyone see how many of our teachers have left for neighboring counties? Don't worry, just keep swimming. Does anyone recognize how hard it is to get substitute teachers and bus drivers? Don't worry, just keep swimming. Does anyone know that every time the office changes our rosters, which could happen every few weeks, sometimes it happens daily, students are going back and forth between remote and in-person daily. We continuously lose all of our electronic grades and have to start everything over again? Don't worry, just keep swimming. Does anyone really think working through a state-level STEM certification program during a COVID year is a good idea? Don't worry, keep it swimming. Yeah, you got it now. Does anyone realize that we have data meetings, PLC meetings, and STEAM design meetings in the same week and often with IEP meetings too? Don't worry, just keep swimming. Does anyone care that our hall printer keeps crashing our computers every time we hit print? Do you, our school board, who has been heard saying that teachers don't appreciate what we receive in terms of benefits, understand that most of us spend either Saturday or Sunday or both days grading and planning for the coming week? Our average number of working hours are over 50 per week, and that does not include morning and afternoon assigned school duties. And the answer has always been, and remember to take care of yourself. We're being told frequently, take care of yourself. Like Swimmy, it is time for MCPS employees to work together and declare our worth. Our worth is more than a one-time bonus of $440. Our worth is more than a one-time bonus next year. In the words of our own Murray County Human Resource Director, Dana Gibson, out of the newspaper article, I hope they didn't misquote her, raises are important, and a simple raise can really boost morale. Our employee morale has been really low here lately. A raise not only increases employee satisfaction, but encourages them to work hard throughout the rest of the year. Are you, this school board, and Director Hickman, there you are, I knew you were up there, are you fighting as hard as possible for us to have a significant raise? We MCEA members have heard for several years now how so many of you wish we could give you a well-deserved raise. It is time for a raise. Instead, what we're hearing, there will be no raises, there will be cut positions, and the federal COVID money will be used to give us a one-time bonus. My dad, who passed away this past December, always told stories about working with his grandfather's mule teams in southern Indiana. He said mules were smart, strong, and brave, but when they were mistreated or overworked, they would stand just perfectly still and they would not move. And that was it. There was nothing you could do but treat them with kindness and respect to get them moving again. Like Swimmy, I call upon my brothers and sisters to work together and let Murray County citizens, commissioners, I know we have a couple in here, thank you, and elected officials hear loudly and clearly that we are long overdue a raise. And like the mule teams that we see here in the farms and fields of Murray County, it is time for us to be treated with respect. Or maybe we should all just stand still. Thank you for listening to me.
Thank you. Could you bring the list up, please? Thank you. We have a couple folks who have signed up for opportunities to speak. Mr. Banks, yours is on transportation. Are you talking about the actual buses themselves, or? Okay, thank you very much, because that is a part of the capital projects. Ms. Stevenson, capital project request, is that yours? Okay. And Ms. Powers, you have already signed up through our public delegation to discuss items not on the agenda. You did turn that in time and were approved. So I'll ask you to come up next. You'll have 5 minutes. Please state your name, your district, address, and you will have 5 minutes.
Carrie Powers, 607 Sunnyside Lane, Columbia, Tennessee. I am a constituent of District 9. Mr. Chairman and board members, thank you for allowing me to speak tonight. Chairman Fulbright, you did mention that it's always good to hear something positive, so I would like to begin by giving a shout out to the gentleman that has the title of Director of Pupil Services, Mr. Carl Lang. I think his position is to be an advocate for children, and I think there is recognition that needs to be given there. He has done a very good job of advocating for children in a very uncomfortable situation that was not good for children. But again, thank you all for allowing me to speak tonight. As I sat in your seats from 2014 to 2018, I listened to many a parent who needed to vent about a situation that I, as a board member, had no direct control to fix. I come to you tonight saddened that this situation has grown to what it has become. That was never my intention as I attempted to speak to you about this situation in July of last year, which happened to be the first month of our current director's employment. I went through proper protocol to be on the agenda to speak, as I did tonight. Unfortunately, I was mysteriously removed from the agenda without any explanation. My attempt last July was only after I exhausted every protocol by addressing in order the coach, principal, and central office. In November of last year, I publicly addressed the board about the situation. Do I need to clarify which situation this is? I can give clarification if anyone needs it. Please don't hesitate to ask. But I publicly addressed the board on this situation where I was humiliated by being called a liar from someone in the gallery behind where I stand now. That person was the principal of Columbia Central High School. It was also the person that we had asked to help us with this situation. Every question that we, 4 parents, asked him was policy-based. The responses we received were manipulative, malicious, and deflecting. Tactics were used at every attempt to have our voice dismissed. Very similar to the reaction that you all witnessed when I spoke to this board in November. The culture of MCPS has been, in this situation, to deflect, manipulate, bully, and dismiss reasonable and policy-guided parental concerns. A simple question regarding the documentation and use of $3,500 from a parent-run fundraiser spun off into horrible events of drama to deflect from answering questions and to cover up policy deviations and wrongdoing by faculty and administrators. We have volumes of unanswered emails to both the principal and several to the current director. We also have hours of recordings from meetings where accountability was dismissed and falsehoods were told. I sent you all an audio piece today where examples may be heard. I sent them to your email. Please note that the principal said on June 4th, 2020, that Jake Wolver confirmed that they did nothing wrong, although the comptroller, the long-awaited comptroller report, did not agree with that statement.
1 minute.
The coach and principal of CHS were very disrespectful and dismissive of the policies you, the board, set. In following protocol, we climbed the chain to the director, who requested that we file official complaints. Policy was not followed in the timeline of the responses to our complaints. I will also assert that I do not believe proper action was taken.
30 seconds.
The letters from the director that defined outcomes are very vague at best. Factually, the actions stating a growth plan and co-coach were applied were bogus and biased. The principal, who had been reported by Scott Lindsay to not follow policy and to allow bullying, was given authority to provide a growth plan and to assign his assistant co-coach. That would be like a judge allowing someone convicted of a crime the ability to punish themselves as they see fit.
That's time.
Once again, there was manipulation of a perceived action that did
That's-
nothing to
That's
protect
time.
kids.
Thank you. Thank you very much for your comments.
Is this,
It's the
is
5
that
minute.
a constituent? I sat through many a prolonged.
I'm just going by what's in our addressing the board
Right.
policy.
Any,
We had,
is there a quorum from the board on that?
anybody could overrule me. Would we like to stay with our policy? Thank you. Thank you for your
very much.
time. Just as a side note, Ms. Stevens and Mr. Banks, since your item comes during the new business section, I'll invite you to come up at that time to discuss the items on the agenda, if that's okay. Or would you like to speak now and head on out? I'll speak now because I was gonna head out. Okay, come on up then. This is the opportunity. And this is an agenda item, so that's why you'll have 3 minutes and just signed up as you came in the door. So come on up.
I didn't know you could speak right before the agenda item. I thought you had to speak at the public notice.
It can be either one.
Flexibility?
I was gonna be courteous to you, but
Flexibility?
yeah, believe it or not.
All right. Good evening, Mr. Hickman, members of the board. My name is Sue Stevenson. I'm the county commissioner that represents District 6. I serve on the budget committee, I serve on the building committee, I serve on the Murray County Regional Planning Commission. A while back, we gave the school board $2 million to do plans for both McDowell and Spring Hill High School. I know plans were done for McDowell, they were never done for Spring Hill High School. I don't know what was done with that money. But that was what we were told was needed to do the plans for both schools. Mr. Hewlett shared with me that for every year you delay, you can add another $2.5 to $3 million to the cost of a high school. And every time you delay each year, that just continues to go up. I came here 4 years ago to raise the red flag about Spring Hill High School, about the need for a high school on the north end of town. I said at that time there was explosive growth, and there's no end in sight. As a member of the Regional Planning Commission, the County Regional Planning Commission, I work with builders and developers all the time. I know all the growth that's going on both the east and the west side of Nashville Highway. There's proposed in the near future, just on the west side alone, not even factoring the east side, 7,000 homes. If every fourth home has one high school student, there's your 2,000 capacity, end of story. You will have reached capacity on your new high school. The message I'm trying to share with you is that you will absolutely need 2 high schools in the north end of town. And I really would love it, I told this to Mr. Moore actually, if you'd all get on one of your buses and take a ride out there and look well past the east and west side than just what fronts Nashville Highway. It would blow your mind. It's ridiculous density, and that's because the municipalities are expanding into their urban growth boundaries, and they don't care what the density is. They said there's going to be no adverse effect, doesn't matter that the infrastructure is not in place. They're just doing high density, high density, high density. The county has no control over that. I'm ahead of myself. Let's see here.
Well, you got a minute left, so.
Oh, thank you, thank you. You just opened a new elementary school, and now you have a need for another one. And the same thing is going to happen with this high school. If you take that land that Spring Hill High School is on now, and you use part of it for an elementary school, I can't imagine the fortune you're going to pay to look for land and to build a brand-new high school in addition to Battle Creek. By the time you do that, probably a year or two from now, or 3, that new high school will be $90 to $100 million. And that's just a high school. That's not the cost of what you're going to pay for the land. I don't even want to guess what the land is going to cost. The debt roll-off, we still owe $50 million on Central High School. We still owe $30 million on the Battle Creek schools. There is no roll-off. There is no extra money.
That would be time. So I'll give you a chance to close your statement.
Okay.
Very quickly.
Thank you.
I don't have a good reputation with that.
Well, I won't say anything to that,
Go ahead.
Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Also, I wanted to say that 7 years ago, I was alerted to the fact that you've got a K-12 unit school in Santa Fe that has 1 gymnasium for K-12. They need that gymnasium. They needed it 7 years ago. I brought it up to the previous District 6 representative, and nothing happened.
Okay. Thank you very much. I appreciate
Thank
those
you.
comments. Mr. Banks, I'll give you the option to stay and enjoy the rest of the show, or if you would like to speak on the bus issue, now. I would ask, the regular budget's not on the agenda tonight, so keep any comments strictly around the capital request tonight, dealing with buses.
Mr. Fulbright, Can I ask a
Ms. Parker.
sorry, I have a question for Mr. Leconin.
Okay.
Mr. Leconin, with regards to the debt rolling off, I think Ms. Stevenson said that we've got $50 million rolling off on Central and $30 million on Battle Creek.
Owed.
That's flipped. And,
I'm sorry.
And that's what we owed.
That's what we owe.
Yeah.
I was just curious because I didn't remember Central costing $50 million and Battle Creek only costing 30. It was just
Okay. Does that answer your question?
right, but you had talked before to us about what is rolling off. So can you just go over that with us again, just so we're all, while we've got commissioners in the room, on the same page?
There is a borrowing for an HVAC project that was a refunding, and that's all that's rolling off this year. It has decreased the debt payment by the school district from $720,000-ish to $620,000. So that had a positive impact on the Board of Education's share of that debt. It was part of a train project, so we have that right here. But it rolled off, and it only freed up that much. On the county side, it only freed up about $500,000 in revenue, and that fund is operating at a deficit right now for its budget projection. So.
Anything else, Ms. Parker? All right, Mr. Banks, you're going to have 3 minutes if you'll state your name, district, and address, and keep it to the capital request as much as possible.
My name is Ken Banks. I'm in the first term with District 1. I share that district with our chairman, Mr. Morrow. I am also involved with, at his suggestion a year and a half ago, to get involved with the bus transportation system. I'm also a business owner here in town, so days like today get pretty long because I wear all 3 hats during the day. With the guidance of our committee budget director and Mr. Leconin, our commission appropriates the money that is projected to be available to the schools. And I wish our populace would listen to the work that y'all do and the work that we do because sometimes even the answers are not what we want to hear or you want to hear. But I have found that with dialogue and discussion in a respectful way, that we can try to set priorities to do the best that we can, and my whole purpose was to try to help. We don't have to be enemies. The Board of Education does not have to be at odds with the commission, and I have enjoyed getting to know some of the people in the school system. And one of my main purposes is just to say that, you know, with the help of the teachers and the advocacy for them as well, let's don't forget that there is a support staff that is just as important with what they contribute to getting these schools, even whether it's in the janitorial section, whether it's like in the bus transportation system. Having done it, knowing what it takes to get a CDL, knowing what it takes to pass background checks, we've got people out there who are nearly 80 years old, and Mr. Perriman, Mr. Pinkston, some of them, it is serious. They have a hard time hiring people. And I see firsthand the routes, because I drive one of the longest routes up there, when you don't even have enough people to cover substituting, that sometimes they have 3 to 4 people in the office who are covering those routes, because they're just like our sheriff and some of the other things that we all are up against in this county. We're losing people to Williamson County, and sometimes we don't lose them. It's even worse than that. We never get them to begin with. And so if we can help in any way, if the money's not there, sometimes that's why you don't get all you want. So what we've got to work together to do is set priorities, to do the most important thing we can to keep good personnel. When you've got 147 buses in this county, 108 positions with drivers, and I don't know how many of them are not filled at this time, this is where some of our weaknesses are, that I hope that together we can work to find cooperation and be able to move Murray County ahead, because the bottom line is I'm also a realtor broker. This county is growing so fast, the people are coming faster than the money is coming.
That's time.
And that is our challenge tonight, and
Thank you.
I want to help all I can.
Thank you for that. I want to take, I have 2 items that I'd like to do under public delegation. First is I want to thank my wife for letting me be here tonight. It's our 8th anniversary, and I would also be remiss if I didn't point out this is the 4th of those 8 anniversaries that I have been at either a county commission budget meeting or a school board meeting, so that's a saint. I also want to reiterate something that I had put out on social media this week, that the budget process is drawing to a close for the school board side of it. We've got a little bit more that we need to do, but we're getting there. Nothing's a perfect budget, but we do require, or do rely, just as Mr. Banks said, on collaboration, positive attitudes, positive work between us and the county commission. And I continue to hope that all of our discussions, publicly and privately, no matter who it is, no matter what forum it is, remains collaborative and positive going forward. So thank you. Moving on to consent items. Do I have a motion for the consent agenda? Ms. Kinzer makes the motion. Do I have a second? Second by Mr. Howell. This is for the approval of the consent agenda. I believe there's 20 items on consent. Thank you. That's the unanimous passage of the consent agenda for tonight's meeting. Moving on, under finance, Mr. Leone.
We have 2 budget amendments proposed to you tonight. One is paying for a truck. You've already okayed this purchase. This is the budget amendment to go along with that purchase. This is 8.1.1, using rebate funds to purchase a truck. Eric knows more about the truck and where it's going, all that fun stuff. And then there's a budget amendment amending ESER 2.0, exactly. So,
Okay.
if there are any questions, happy to answer them.
Is there any discussion on the two budget amendments? If not, is there a motion? Got a motion from Mr. Lindsay. Need a second? Second from Mr. Howell. Any further discussion? We're gonna take, is your motion to take both of them as one? Second? Okay, we'll do both of them as one.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes,
I
Mr.
just
Moore.
have one question. For the budget amendment for the ESSER funds, I just want to clarify, make sure that is representing completely what we laid out previously, correct?
That's correct, in the entire budget amendment. And Renee's here and Scott's here to talk specifically.
All right, that's fine. Thank you.
Mr. Lindsay.
Just another point on that, even though we're about to amend this money, any expenditure over $10,000 will have to come back individually before this board, is that correct?
25,000, but yes.
Thank you. Any other questions? Seeing none, we're prepared to vote. That is a unanimous approval of those two budget amendments. The next item is the capital budget request that we have talked about presenting as a part of our budget package. The reason that this made it onto tonight's meeting is I found out last night that this is due to the county commission by Monday. Now that leaves us a couple options. We could come back and meet Thursday of this week if we wanted to spend more time looking at it and discussing it, or we could vote it up or down tonight and send it on to the county commission next Monday. I am gonna put forward that we go ahead and vote on it tonight, get it in the way that we want it, and send it forward to the county commission after we vote on it at this meeting. I'll open it up for discussion. Mr. Howe.
Motion to approve the budget, capital budget as presented.
Okay, I have a motion to approve the capital budget as presented, second for Mrs. Kinzer. Ms. Irvin.
So I don't want to hesitate, but I do want to express my concerns as Ms. Stevenson has reflected. I mean, is this a definite to go ahead and, I mean, I know it's still pending the commission funding it, but I feel like I just don't know that it's wise to not consider what she said with the growth. I understand the growth. My fear is that we will need a second high school. I'm not saying I'm not in favor of doing the Battle Creek, but I just have severe concerns about things that have already been previously mentioned. I don't know. I just want to state those. I don't know how this works at this point, but I think that it's a bigger, it's a huge picture to look at, and I don't want to be short-sighted in that. That's all I want to say. So, okay. Can you explain that more? I mean, is this a definite approval to go forward with Battle Creek and change it to an elementary? Is that what we're doing?
That is what the budget capital request is proposing. Yes.
And there's no way to split this out, like per line item. They're just doing it all one big thing.
Well, I mean, that's what we're going to vote on tonight.
Okay.
Mr. Howe.
I really enjoy talking to Sue Stevenson. Who doesn't, actually? But, I mean, if we listened to her projections are based on approvals of land. Well, there's usually phases, and phase one will include, 1,000 homes, phase two's so on and so forth. I look at permits pulled, because permits pulled means digging shovels into the ground, starting to build. They are substantially less than lots approved. If we just went by approvals, we're behind probably by 5,000, maybe 10,000 seats in Murray County. We can't build for that. So, I mean, we have to go by the best information that we have. And yes, we do need, there's a substantial growth. This would give us an additional, 800 seats at a school? Is that a permanent solution to the growth in Spring Hill? No. but we have to start at some point. Even if we went ahead and spent 40 million, 45 million on Spring Hill High School, that doesn't change the hallways. The building is not designed to have 2,000 students in it. It's not designed to have the 1,200 or 1,300 that it has in it now. So whether we go forward with this or not, this is all conditioned upon approval. It still doesn't address the issues at Spring Hill High School. So I personally feel that we do need to start building a new high school as soon as we can. I've been on the board for 2 years. We've discussed this for years prior to that. At some point, we've just got to stop and just build something. Make a decision, right or wrong, and build something somewhere, or redo or something. What's optimal? I don't know. If I could predict the future, it'd be a completely different situation, obviously. But I personally feel that I'm tired of sitting here for the last 2 years and we discuss Spring Hill, we discuss Spring Hill, we discuss Spring Hill. There's another part of the county that's just not getting discussed until this issue gets taken care of. And, you know, we changed course with McDowell. We received funding to plan out McDowell, and when we finally saw that was never going to pan out, we had to change course. So yes, if we approve this right here today, and for some miraculous, you know, something happens and they approve it, we can still change course. It's not the final, you know, until we start building plans and putting, you know, moving dirt, that's kind of the final thing, because that's when it starts costing more money to redo stuff. So I think we just need to make our ask and see where the chips lie and come back, and we'll figure it out from there.
Thank you. I want to clarify something. If we ask for these items on the list and it is approved, it would take a very big act to change it. I would definitely not want to do anything without reapproaching the county commission in terms of that. I think sometimes there's been some confusion on that. Once we get a pot of money, we can just kind of, we decided we wanted to do this with it. But that's something we will stay away from as long as I'm chairman. Mr. Lindsay.
Mr. Chairman, just to clarify, I guess we're voting on is the motion for attachment 1, under capital outlay, it just says building renovation projects, total of 85 million. Just clarification on the motion for that. And the reason I'm asking, there's just not any specifics on there.
The updated one that we loaded, or that I asked to be loaded today, does break that first 85 million into, and I hope that's the one that got uploaded, is it? It breaks it into a high school, the conversion of Spring Hill High School to the elementary, Santa Fe gym, and then the renovation projects that we mentioned, starting with Mount Pleasant Elementary School, and then the second one, if money allowed, would be moving to Joseph Brown Elementary School. And you see the breakdown there that totals the total of 85 million. I would just remind you that through our conversation last week that we're viewing this, and it's your approval to agree with us or not, but we're viewing this as a checklist, that total amount of money would start and we would work our way down, and as monies became available, if we came in under budget, that we would start going into elementary schools, with those two being the first priority, but pushing in any other projects that we could. And Mr. Fulbright, and Ms. Lindsay, I'm sorry to cut you off, but just when you gave us direction last week, one was to kind of show the breakdown of what that would be, and if you look at the bottom of that page, you'll see the items that we removed, and when we send that over, we would obviously remove those just to clean it up, but I wanted you to see what we were removing and what the initial discussion of that removal would be, and we did pull $7,350,000 off of the request from last week, based upon your direction.
So I'm assuming that whatever we approve tonight, we're kind of backing ourselves into a corner of what we plan on doing, because I'm assuming that as county commissioners, you guys won't like to have an idea of what we plan on doing with that money before you approve it. So, I said this, and I'm not gonna beat a dead horse, I said it last time, but I'm not convinced that Battle Creek is the best site. Just because we have something and we own something doesn't mean it's always the best place. With that being said, I'll make a motion to amend, these numbers, by changing 70 million to 40 million on the top line. Omitting the $10 million number, which is, for the renovation of the elementary school. And that'll be my, proposed amendment.
What else are you taking out?
That's
You said,
taking out the 10 million for the renovation for the for the proposed elementary school. So changing 70 million to 40 and striking out 10 million and leaving everything else the same.
so you wanna put the construction cost of the new high school at 40 million?
Correct. And with that being, that'd be the renovation and addition to the current Spring Hill High School site, rather than going to Battle Creek.
Okay, let me try to process this.
While you're processing, may I ask a question?
Yes.
Do we think 40 million would be enough, though? Because of the cost of construction, I have heard realistically maybe more like 50 million. Just a food for thought with construction costs, I don't know.
Mr. Pearman, can you speak to that?
The number we brought you 2 years ago was 43 million just for the renovation of the school. The expansion, let me say that, and please remember that the core of the building would not be touched other than maybe painted and prettied up a little bit. That does not include athletic facilities. We've spoken to you about the issues on the football field with the stadium, and then also on the softball field. So that was not included in the 43 million. The number we brought back last year, based on conversation with our advisors, was 45. We're a year out. If you add in redesign fees that we did talk about, because as Ms. Stevenson said, part of that money is there, but it was never fully executed for fees. 50 million would be probably right about where we would fall. If you gave us 40, we're gonna do 40 worth of work, but you're gonna get 40 worth of work for a $50 million project.
Okay, thank you. So I think I understand this is bringing the total overall ask down to 50.2 million. Decreasing by 40 million, okay. We have a motion to make that amendment. Is there a second?
Just one more question, is that excluding the Santa Fe gym at that point?
No.
So that would be in addition to? it'd be
Those bottom
50.
two items under building renovations would remain on the list. Is there a second to the amendment that's been proposed?
I second that.
We have a second on the amendment. All right, now we're focusing on the amendment that's been presented. Is there any discussion specifically on the amendment? Mr. Howell, is this on the amendment? If not, we'll come back to you. Mr. Moore?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I know this has been kind of thrown around, and I've become very nervous when we start talking about making last-minute changes on the board for something like this. I mean, obviously, staff has put a lot of time, and we've put a lot of time as a board into developing a 5-year plan, what direction that was gonna go. I can understand wanting to do something different, but I think this would be a poor choice to throw all of that in the trash and just start over with completely different plans. I think it does a disservice to what staff's done, to the work we've already put into this, to just throw that out and change what we're doing. If the issue is putting it on the Battle Creek site, I would note that from the document, it doesn't say it has to go there. It just says a new high school. So that would still be something this board, that if they wanted to discuss further or look at other properties, could do and not break the spirit, at least from what I see here, of what we have discussed doing. But again, I think we would be making a poor choice if we decide to just throw out all of this work to make staff essentially start over and just start from scratch and redo everything we've talked about.
Thank you. Any further discussion on the amendment to reduce the ask by $40 million? Seeing no further discussion, we'll vote on the amendment to the capital budget request. Okay, the amendment does not pass. Back to the original capital budget request as presented. Mr. Howell, your light was on. I promised I'd come back to you.
Thank you, Chair. So, I guess this is where I get frustrated with the government and how it works, and how inefficient I think it works. We've spent a great deal of time, our staff has spent a great deal of time. Before I came on this board, there was a great deal of time spent, there's been money spent, and we try to go back to stuff that we have talked about. I don't know. At one point, we were all in agreement, then at some point, we decided not to do this. And this is where I get my frustration. We just sit here and spin wheels. Do I think this budget will pass, capital budget will pass the county commission? Absolutely not. But this is what our ask is. We have come back. We have been asking for something to happen for the last 3 years, and it hasn't happened. And that's okay. I understand their position. If we're not a taxing authority. If we had taxing authority, it'd be a different situation. But we're not. We have to ask them. They have to help us. We have to help them. I understand that. We've come back with a different plan this year that would, if approved, basically essentially give us 2 schools. They basically get we get an elementary school, 800 to 1,000 student elementary school for $10 million. I mean, that's a steal in itself. Like, that's a bargain. Like, I don't know, planning future-wise, we can't be more efficient with our tax dollars. So we've come back with a well-thought-out plan, and then at the last minute, this has happened before. We think, let's change it. Let's just take this and just throw it away after all the hard work and time that everyone spent into it. And this is, I don't know. I guess at this point, I'm just frustrated, and I just wanted to vent. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Parker.
Mr. Harriman, on the items that you removed, it looked like you have an idea for how to fund the HVAC, but as far as the athletic request, that was something that was based off of the standards that this board adopted, correct? And we currently have no way of funding that.
Currently, no. What we did look at, and we do have the ask in here for $4 million, which is for ongoing maintenance, whatever that number might be. If they funded it at $2 million or $1 million, what we've done is talk with Mr. Pointer. We're prioritizing many of those. Obviously, if they cut it to $1 million, we couldn't maybe take the whole $600,000 for athletics, but we're prioritizing based off of what they would be. There's a certain number that if we hit it, we would do all of it and go ahead and meet that out. But our commitment to you and to the commission would be that we would address those athletic facilities outside of the stadium issue that we've talked about at Spring Hill High School, which is in this other number. But Mr. Pointer has a very detailed list. We know what it would cost based upon our analysis, and we'll approach that. But right now, you are correct. There's no funding source in any way for those items.
Mr. Leconin, if we send this to the county commission, are they going to have to do a tax increase?
To fund all of it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And the $660,000, that would require how much extra tax increase?
About 3 pennies would cover all of the project in a year.
Okay.
Mr. Lindsay.
I just want to comment. I think Mr. Moore brought up a great point a while ago when he was discussing the amendment that if we just keep this broad and talk about a new high school and don't attach a name or a piece of property to it, then that would give us some freedom if we come up with I've made it pretty obvious my feelings about the Battle Creek site. So but if we come up in our collective opinion that there's a better site for it, then maybe we leave the door open for that. So I just want to comment on that. I think that's a good idea moving forward. So.
Okay, thank you. Is there any further conversation, Ms. Parker?
Can you clarify though, because when I'm looking at these documents, I thought it specifically says construction at Battle Creek property. I'm looking at the documents beyond the first page. So I'm just asking what we're voting on.
And any support document, and it is in there for the backup, but we can amend that based on your direction. If you want that removed, we could just say a new high school in the northern part of the county, or in the Spring Hill portion of the district. Again, please remember that this high school, while wherever we build up there is gonna serve both Columbia and Spring Hill students. So we can word that however you would like for us to.
I think that clarification needs to be made.
Well,
Yeah.
I think it probably goes back to whoever made the motion as to
Well,
what their intent
I'm
was.
encouraging whoever made the motion to clarify that, and the second.
Yeah.
I'm asking, okay. I couldn't remember which one of you made the
Oh,
motion,
it
which one of you made the second. That's why I was looking here confused.
No, I mean, our intention, our, the whole goal, I thought was Battle Creek. We already own the land. I think that if you took $70 million and you tried to go buy land and build a building, you're not getting a 2,000 student building, you're getting a 1,200 or 1,500 student building. As far as the land, I think the land's perfect. It's prime. It's already got water, power, sewer. It's ready to go. It's got part of the athletic fields ready to go. That's a huge savings right there. As far as the road conditions, and I have been all over this state, the soccer teams going to schools on backcountry roads that were not designed for what they are. We would not be the only school system in Tennessee to put a school on a backcountry road. At some point, all the roads that leads to Culleoka were backcountry roads. They're not anymore. We don't build roads. If we built roads, we would build superhighways to all of our schools, problem solved. But as far as traffic goes, I mean, that's a Spring Hill City issue. They helped us find this location. This was the way to go at the time. This was our vision, to have a campus school up there, have 3 schools on one property. It saves us money. It saves the county money. We own the property. Why would we not put a school there if we're looking to put a school on the north end of the county? To say that it's not ideal, well, Spring Hill High School is not ideal. It's on a main thoroughfare. Well, that's great. You know, traffic can come. No, it's not great. Not when you've got new drivers trying to get in and out of that it's not very good. But putting an elementary school right there is great. You don't have young drivers trying to get in and out. I don't know. I envision this being as the $85 million ask, with a Spring Hill High School on the Battle Creek site, taking the old Spring Hill High School and reconditioning it or refurbishing it into a elementary school on the north. It's technically on the north end of Columbia. It's in Columbia, or almost in Columbia. The Spring Hill or the Santa Fe gym, and the any additional funds we have can roll down to Mr. Perryman's plan that they've spent a lot of time working on. That's my clarification.
Okay, I just want to bring up a point. If we were to remove the specific tag of the Battle Creek property, that would not prohibit us from putting a school on the Battle Creek property. I think it would just give us another option so that we wouldn't have to feel like we were pulling a fast one on the county commission, which nobody likes. Ms. Kinzer?
I assume that you're asking if the motion maker here would be willing to leave that option open, that we can debate it another day.
I was going to say that.
All of that. I think the important thing is to get this to the commission. Yes, we all envisioned that was where it was gonna be, but I appreciate the discussion that everybody's had, and I think just to leave that option open will not keep anything. We're not gonna get a check for all this next week, and many things change, as we know they did with McDowell and even Spring Hill High School. So as a second, I'm willing to let that motion change.
And that's a good point, that we would have the opportunity to vote on the location, be it Battle Creek, wherever, with that. So, Mr. Howell, I'll ask you to revisit, just to give us some input.
Yes, I'll agree to that.
Okay, thank you. Didn't want to twist your arm, but I did want clarification. Ms. Kinzer does have a cane that she can use for you.
Mr. Fulbright, are you guys okay with just removing a statement, just say new construction of a 2,000 student high school with full athletic facilities? And that doesn't promise to any location. Everybody knows it has to be in the northern part of the county. Are you good with that? And I'll make that amendment, and we'll make, okay.
Can I just ask?
Wait a minute, I'm trying to read the motion. Go ahead, I'm sorry, I was talking to myself on that one.
Would there be the possibility of us improving, if we were to choose not to go with the Battle Creek site, to improve the facilities there, or the athletic facilities there, or do we have to do it at wherever we might potentially construct it at?
At the Battle Creek site,
Mhm.
the football field that's there was built,
To expand.
to be expanded into a high school field. Quite a bit of work, but we could expand that, put a track around it, that would accomplish too. We would still need a baseball and a softball field, I know that's been mentioned. Those two were not built, with high school standards in mind. Softball field could probably do it, the baseball field cannot function as a high school baseball field. But we would have that property if you chose to do anything there athletically. So again, that would just be at your discretion, and we would follow suit with whatever you gave us direction on.
I guess where I'm coming from though is that we set these standards and then we're pulling back from these standards. And those standards don't just impact Spring Hill High School, they impact every school. So I guess I'll make a motion to amend Mr. Howell's motion to add back in the $660,000, because I think it's consistent with the standards that we as a board have adopted. And quite frankly, if this is a wish list that we're sending to the commission, then that's on my wish list.
Okay, we have a motion to add, second from Mr. Moore. The amendment as proposed. Yeah. Wait a minute. No, the amendment is to add 600. Yes, this will be amendment 2. Whatever that number is. 660. Right. All right. With that said, I think the wording on that, where it includes Battle Creek, makes it a little confusing. Location of the high school. Plus $660,000 for athletic projects. I know what you're saying, but at this point. Okay, no, wait a minute. I do want to do this the right way. And this is a little bit convoluted, I know, but we're going to do it this way. The actual amendment number 2 is to add $660,000 for athletic projects. None of the rest of that applies as an amendment. Motion to add, yeah, that's exactly it. There's our amendment. All right. Is there any other discussion on the amendment? Seeing none, let's vote on the amendment as presented. Okay, that amendment passes. Now, going back to the motion is exactly what you had up there the first time. Yeah. Motion to approve capital budget as presented in attachment 1. Yeah, we're gonna be putting that $600,000 back in there. Yeah, we're putting it back in there. We're putting it back in there, don't worry. Okay, now, Mr. Howell, Ms. Kinzer, make sure I'm saying this right. Main motion is to present the capital budget request, attachment 1, as presented. What was the first thing I said? To pass, to approve. Well, we have to approve it, and then it automatically goes to the county commission. To approve the capital budget request, attachment 1, no, wait. All right. Yeah. Doug, am I correct on that? Does it matter? Okay, here's the way I want it to read. Motion to approve the capital budget request. Oh, okay, you're writing. With the location of high school to be determined. With the amendment of $660,000 for athletic projects. $660,000. For athletic projects, yes. Is that what everybody understood the motion to say and to be? Yeah, I guess. I just want to make sure that we've got our P's and Q's all in order. Okay, I just don't want the technology to give us a glitch or anything. Okay. Is that right? Okay, that sounds correct. Okay. Do we need to take a voice vote, or can we do the computer vote? Okay. Yes, that's our understanding. So just for clarification, to have it on the record, we are not only voting on the adding of $660,000, but we also are adding to approve the capital budget request as presented. And we are ready to vote. Okay, the motion passes to approve capital request. This will go to the county commission for next week's meeting, Monday evening. Mr. Leconin, does this go to the financial management board first or to the main commission meeting?
To the financial management board, and then they will kick it to the budget committee.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Fulbright, I am emailing you all right now the updated version that shows that, just for your records, and we'll post that to Mr. Leone as well.
Thank you. And now that this has been voted on and settled, I want to say, I'm not looking at this as something that's gonna get bumped back to us. We are gonna work with the county commission. It may not be in this format when it comes back to us, but this is more than just let's throw it against the wall and see if it works. We have, I think, a good enough relationship that we can work together, maybe not to get everything, but at least to get something close to what we need for the children of Murray County. And I appreciate our commissioners being here tonight to hear this discussion and to be able to see how much time and effort and thought has really gone into this. And I know, obviously, from my former position, I know that hard decisions and hard choices that have to be made on the other end. So, mutual respect, mutual collaboration, and I think we'll be in good position. Mr. Howe, go ahead.
And I absolutely agree. I mean, you know, we can do this as far as funding goes, we can do this in phases. The elementary school, although is a need, is not as pressing need as the high school, and we can, you know, ask for the $10 million to renovate the high school after we've moved out of the high school. So, yeah, this absolutely, we can definitely find a way to make this happen, I hope.
Okay, thank you. All right, moving on to, is there anything under, there's nothing under policy. No instructional low bids, operational bids. All right, before we leave, I do want to remind everyone and make a note that the Resiliency Awards are coming up in May. This is something that we've done, I know 2 years ago. Last year was done in a very weird remote type way, obviously for COVID. But we are looking to recognize, Ms. Kinzer, would you mind filling us in?
What I want all of y'all to plan to be there. I'd love for each of you all to participate, because each principal writes something about that employee and the child. And as you would, 2 years ago, it was really special, very special. And so, not having to have it last year, are we gonna do retirees that night as well, Jack? No? Well, whatever. We haven't planned that yet. Okay, but anyway, it's gonna be at Central High School, little, you know, not in the band room, but in the auditorium. So, May the 11th, is that correct?
Mr. Cobb, is that correct?
Okay.
May 11th at?
6 o'clock.
6 o'clock.
To honor those, that principals have, and having gone around to hear them being read to the people at the schools, it was just amazing, what some of them had gone through, and it was a real honor. So I think it'd be special for us to do that. And maybe you all can participate by reading some of the things to the schools you represent.
Good. One last thing, the work session for May is on the same night as, is it Santa Fe's graduation, or whose graduation? Santa Fe's graduation. So we'll move it from a Tuesday night to a Wednesday night for the month of May. Mr. Hickman's just whispering in my ear, there's a graduation Monday night, Tuesday night, Thursday night, Friday night of that week. So we're gonna be the star of the show Wednesday night. Okay, great. Thank you. That's exactly what I wanted to make sure of. All right, the last question is a scheduling question. We do need to have our budget approved, the rest of our budget approved by the end of the month. We have a couple options. We can have a special called meeting if we think that we need to work on it a little bit more, talk about it a little bit more. Or we can have a separated meeting, I guess is what I'm getting at. Or we can have a special called meeting the night of the work session just to go ahead and vote on what we have. Give me some thoughts from the board on which way to proceed. An additional meeting, if we wanted to do it on another night so we didn't spend all night here on the 20th, 26th, 27th, 28th, or 22nd, which is this, or what, no, it'd be next Thursday. Mr. Leone.
If we do have the will to do it all on the 20th, I'll bring pizza for everyone on the school board.
I saw Mr. Lindsay's light come on.
believe mine was first.
I can't see yours, the angle it's at. Go ahead.
Excuse.
I just got a question for Doug. If we don't have BEP projections back by the 20th, if
What do
we
we do?
approve something in the absence of those, do we have the ability to go back and amend it once we get those projections?
The private act allows it to be amended after it's been submitted to the commission. So yes. So if we get that submission in, and it happened, it happened last year. We got an updated BEP estimate that increased our budget about $320,000. So after it's sent, we still have time to amend it. And not speaking for the commission, but if it does come back, we can amend it at that time. But we can also amend our proposal to the budget committee at a later date as well. We just need something voted on from here first, before May 1st.
And I addressed that, I asked that to address comments that was made earlier tonight that personally, I'm waiting to see what those BEP projections are before we start talking about raises and before we dive into that. And I'll just add in while I'm saying it, it has never been my intent to do nothing. I don't plan on doing nothing, but I would like to see those projections before we start diving into that. So I just want to make sure we have that freedom that even if we don't have those BEP projections, we shoot this thing through, then we get those projections back, we can come back and add to it if we want to. So.
Ms. Kinzer.
That was what I was gonna say. I'm not comfortable voting on this budget until we know the BEP projections. I am not comfortable voting on any budget that does not contain a raise for our employees. They have, no, let me speak now. Oh, you're giving me a thumbs up. I just think that it's amazing to me that we always put them last. I mean, I listened to all the department people the other day tell us, and I was so impressed with their knowledge and how we understood the budget so much more. But I haven't heard anybody other than maybe some board members that say, what about our employees? What are we gonna do for our employees? What are we gonna do to keep our employees? What are we gonna do to reward them for the cost of living raises they have not gotten in 4 years? And so I won't vote for any budget unless I know there's a raise in it substantial. The BEP numbers come out by the end of April, before May the 1st. We should know what the governor is saying we're gonna do. I'm not prepared to vote on anything on the 20th.
Mr. Leone?
Last year, we received the BEP estimate on April 17th of 2020, so we expect to get our estimate very soon.
So there's the potential that we could have it by our work session on the 20th. And if we needed to adjust the budget at the special called meeting on the 20th, we could do that? Okay. I just want to ask a question because I'm a little confused. We took step raises out of this budget?
No, step raises are in the budget.
I just wanted to make sure of that. Mr. Moore?
I mean, functionally, it seems to me like we could just plan to have this on the agenda for the April 20th work session, have a special call afterwards. If we do not have what we feel we need to do, we just create another date after that.
That's fine.
I think that's functionally the best thing to do.
Mr. Hickman?
Just a reminder, with the, it's probably gonna have to come back anyway, once they, what's in legislation is the BEP hold harmless. So the projections, I'm interested to see if they're gonna send us our, exact same, or they're gonna project it off actual enrollment. With that said too, there's, several bills that are being presented, and, part of the hold harmless is we're also looking at a piece where, and I think I've talked to a couple of you, a piece where they're talking about a recurring piece to it for teacher raises. So there's a lot of things in legislation, and I know everybody up here gets TSBA emails, and I just strongly encourage you to follow some of those. There's one that's really of concern that I've really tried to hit with you a few times. But they have really, all they have told us on receiving those projections, they said anywhere from mid to late April. So hopefully it will come by the 19th.
Okay. Thank you. Mr. Lindsey?
One last question, I'll hush. By private act, we have to have something approved by May 1st, but when actually would that be presented to the budget committee? What's the actual date on that?
The private act says we have to bring something by June 1st to the budget committee.
So we could satisfy that private act by voting for something on the 20th, knowing that sometime in the month of May, we're gonna add to, take away, amend
Refine
that
it
in
to
some way.
somewhat. Okay, thank you. Just a couple important dates. Next week, we will have county commission meeting on the 19th, I believe. Is that right, Mr. Banks? Monday night, the 19th. Tuesday night will be our work session with, can we get this added to whatever we need to add it to? Special called meeting afterwards to approve or not the budget. And then that would be all we do until May 4th for our regular meeting. And also take note that that May 18th date for the work session there at the bottom is moved to May 19th now due to graduation. Is there any other business for the board? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Any in favor? Get up and leave.